the first of our next big things to keep your eye on in the future and now is Naturbeads, and here's Giovanna Laudisio to talk it through.
Giovanna, would you like to take the middle seat, or if you're okay? Very good. My thanks also to Andy for that talk. So yes, the next big thing, and this is a company which got extraordinary momentum and prospects. You'll get a sense of that from this video, which we're going to show you to give a flavour of nature.
30,000 tons of plastic microbeads globally from cosmetic products enter the ocean every year.
That's equivalent to 5 billion plastic bottles. The plastic microbeads used in cosmetics have a working life which is shorter than a plastic bag.
Plastic microbeads are tiny time bombs.
They contain already chemicals from productions, but they can also absorb chemicals from the environment. These chemicals become concentrated in these tiny particles that can be ingested by fish and end up in the human food chain. Microbeads are the invisible plastics problem.
We are constantly working on trying to replace plastics and other hazardous chemicals with natural substances.
Because plastic microbeads have very small dimensions, 1/5 of the diameter of your hair. If something so small ends up in the environment, it's very difficult to remove, unlike a plastic bottle or a fish net. Our microbeads are made of cellulose. Cellulose is a natural material. What plants are made of is abundant and is renewable. Even if the particles end up in the ocean, fish already eat algae, which are made of cellulose, so we don't expect that there will be any effect to the fauna in the oceans.
So there we have it in a nutshell. You can see why we found this in a compelling story. It's ecologically sound, it's related to university and academic thinking, it's got exponential potential, you've got relationships with international cosmetic companies, which we'll talk about, you've got funding in place and big plans subsequently. Let's start with this, Giovanna. Tell us about your own story, which is a combination of both commercial background and then academic.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for the invite and the opportunity to present our project, which is Naturbeads. So my experience as an entrepreneur is completely different from what we heard from Christian. And actually, that is the first challenge, is that investors are looking for somebody like Christian. So they look for a young, smart coder and a business that in short time can give revenue. We are talking about Naturbeads is a deep tech business, which means that after 7 years since it was incorporated, we are still pre-revenue. So convincing investors to give you money when you are still not generating revenue is the first challenge. However, I had experience in the corporate world. I realized at some point that I was not a corporate person, so I really wanted to run my own business from the point of view, because I think that innovation in startups happens much faster, and because I thought that the way companies sometimes are managed is not very effective. So I really believe that people in business are your main resource, and so eventually I was looking for the right technology, because after spending 7 years in corporate, it's not like I could come up with my own idea. And I spent some time in Singapore. I was working in technology transfer, so very, very basic, like very technical person. So in a way, through my experience in at the University of Singapore, I realized that there were some criteria which are really important if you want to scale up a technology from the laboratory to the market. And at the same time, my husband, who was still here in the UK, had come up with this interesting technology with a colleague at the University of Bath. And so I was the one to convince them, say, "Look, this has potential. Has potential, is interesting, it fits with the idea that I was looking for a technology that was in clean tech. And so I convinced these two professors to start up, which was a challenge in itself, because professors usually, they look at their career and they need to publish paper, they need to have PhD students, so it was not in their path. But eventually, my husband actually really enjoyed the entrepreneurial experience, and last year he joined the company 80% as our CTO.
So tell us, at the core of the company, what actually are, for those who may not know, cellular microspheres, and how do they connect to some of the world's biggest, potentially connect world's biggest cosmetic companies?
So many of you might be surprised because we don't see microspheres in the product, really, because they're small, like in the video I was mentioning. But they are added to cosmetics, and I will tell you more about also the other products. They're added to cosmetics because they fulfill some very specific functions. So because they are spheres, this is easy to understand, their role. So if you have spheres in a cream, and you put it on your skin, then you have this very nice smooth effect. They also help, for example, lipsticks to have a better coverage. They are in mascara, so they are in a lot of products. And actually, this video you saw is a little bit dated, but in the meantime, we discovered that microplastics or microspheres, they are added to coatings, for example, of furniture. And in fact, paints and coatings, as you can imagine, because of the volumes, they are massive contributor to microplastics in the environment. Microspheres are added to leather products. So any leather that you have in your shoes, in your car, is also contains microplastics. So and the numbers we heard from the video are really an underestimate, because in truth, over the last 5-6 years that we've been talking with companies, we discovered that globally 2 million tons of microplastics are used in different products. So cosmetics reasonably are the first target. Why? Because as we were saying in the video, you put the makeup on, then in the evening you wash your face, and this microplastic go directly in the drains. And from there in the oceans and in the environment. So it makes sense to remove them first from cosmetics. And in fact, the UK has been one of the first countries in 2018 to ban microplastics at the time in rinse of cosmetics. So like toothpaste, body scrubs. But what many people don't realize, that microplastics are still used in what are called leave-on cosmetics. So like cream, lotion, tan, and lipstick, nail polish, and then, as I was saying, also in paints and coatings, leather products, products for agriculture. So they're everywhere.
So you're, I'll put it in these sort of straightforward terms. You're moving from theory into practice, and you're somewhere between proof of concept and beginning the pilot plant and so on. But you've also raised several million from investors.
Yes.
So far, 7.8 is it so far?
Yeah, 7.8 in the last round, and about 11 million in total.
About 11 million pounds raised. So when we're talking about this as a scalable business with great prospects, we've seen the sort of the theory and the concept and the need. But talk to us about how you achieved 11 million or so in funding for something that is well pre-revenue. It's more than conceptual, but it's not quite actual. How did you approach that?
So the first thing I realized, when I was at the National University of Singapore, that the most important criteria for having a startup is working on something that the market desperately need, which is in a way similar to what Christian was saying before. If you have something that the market needs, then the market will come to you. So we, of course, started step by step. We started with a small equipment on a bench in the lab, so that gave us the first 300,000 pounds. And then we built the pilot plant. Of course, we look also a lot of non-dilutive funding through grants. And so step by step, and because companies were coming to us, in fact, even now, probably if you Google like biodegradable microbeads, Naturbeads comes at the top in the search, though we don't pay any ad to Google. But that's because companies knew that there were bans in the UK, and then the European Union published bans for microplastics in different products in 2023. China enacted a ban in 2020. So because there are active bans, companies are really desperate to find a solution. They don't want consumers to know, so you won't hear L'Oreal, for example, saying we are looking for replacing microplastics. But they go to their suppliers, which are companies that are not household name, because probably you might have heard of BASF, or Dow or DuPont, which are big chemical companies. But in general, their suppliers know that their customers want a solution, and then they come to us. Yes.
So if you take that as a bigger picture point, there's a major societal trend for obvious reasons. There's an increasing governmental sense of responsibility to ban, restrict, limit, whatever. And you are at a sweet spot of that massive sort of seismic change. Talk about the funding going forwards. You've got, I think the figure is, you said you'll need maybe a further 3 million or so this year, and then perhaps up to £50 million in a combination of debt, equity and grants in 26, 27. For what, from whom,
Yes.
and when and how? Talk us about that.
So the funding we received so far is just enough to build our first plant, which we are building in Italy. But if things go as we expect, the demand will outstrip capacity already by the end of next year. So we are already thinking at the next plant. So unfortunately, this is the main challenge we have as a technology, because in a startup like Paddle, of course, it's a matter of building the team, and but you don't have to build this big infrastructure that we need.
So it's capital intensive in a
So
way
it's very
that
capital intensive, very
many
capital
technology companies aren't inherently.
And so the next funding will be to build the first really significant plant. And if we consider the numbers we were mentioning before, if we're successful and we build this plant of 200, 300 tons, we're still talking about like a drop in the ocean of the use of microbeads in all the products I was mentioning before.
We have a session specifically on funding led by Linkstone a little bit later, Linkstone Advisory. But I want to ask one other on funding. When you've been seeking investors of the larger scale, not necessarily only angels, have you found a different appetite for investment from UK companies, European companies, but particularly American companies? Or do you expect to at any rate?
So you mean different appetite from investors?
So far and looking forward about their appetite for risk. Any investment is a form of risk.
So definitely the majority of investors are wary of investing in capital-intensive businesses. So for us, we never had a situation when somebody came and say, "I give you 5 million and you can do what you want." So we actually is really like looking for a needle in a haystack. You need to find the right investor who understand the technology, understand the potential, understand the risks, because there is a risk when you're scaling up a new process to make a new product. So everything is new. That doesn't mean that they're not there. So there are investors that are really specialized in investing in chemical plant or chemical processes. So it's just a little bit more difficult.
How much of your offer is proprietorial? How protected is that through your IP is protected? And then slightly more generally about how important is the role of advisors when it comes to funding and giving confidence to funders that this is a secure entity?
So in terms of IP, it's critical because we don't have revenue, we don't have customers, so we need to have some type of assets, which for us is the IP. And in fact, that was the first challenge I had to address, because professors at the university are not really inclined to patent their technologies because they are more interested in publishing their work. And so I knew from the beginning that we needed to find an angle to protect our intellectual property. In terms of advisors, we haven't used advisors so far to raise funding, mainly because, again, I thought that the majority of advisors are used to different type of technologies, and so we haven't found one that was specific for our hard tech technologies. This said, for the next raise, we might speak with advisors that have specific experience in our type of raise.
And again, the more general point, it will certainly help with fundraising if the IP has that sort of security in the broader sense.
Yes.
It is a prospect. Tell us about your pipeline, potentially, and how it works with some of the world's major cosmetic companies. Who are you talking to? What sort of time horizons? And your
Yes.
immediate prognosis once you have manufacturing or
Yes.
supply at any rate.
So we are not speaking directly with the cosmetic companies. We are speaking with their suppliers.
Okay. Well, so DuPont and...
The likes of DuPont. So we are really working towards our first commercial agreement. The deadline is for the end of June, which is fast approaching.
And you're here? Great.
But we hope to be able to announce soon the first commercial agreement, and we have a pipeline of other big companies, again, not household name, but very important. Each of these company has hundreds of customers. So by working with them, we are able to eventually approach companies that it would be very difficult for us to reach as a small company.
Well, we'll come on to audience questions now. So this business, I don't know if you've had this sense, but it's almost like the more you look at it, you think, wow, sort of the bigger it gets, you're getting up close to something which, if it goes to plan, and I'm sure it will, could well be one of the absolute stars of the future after this sort of genesis and rationale. If we get a mic to, I think it's Christoph in the middle, please. Thanks.
Christoph Sturton from Peer-to-Peer Global. I'm just interested in the people who are giving you the money at the moment, or
Yes.
How much of that, or what proportion of that, do you think is people giving to a planet-saving solution that you obviously are, versus looking for a return?
So definitely, I think the type of investors that invest in our company, they are not looking at the 100 or 1,000 pay returns that you can have with a software company. So definitely, there are investors who are doing it. They expect a return because they're investor. Our first investor was actually Sky Ocean Venture. So you might remember in 2018, Sky had a campaign that was called Sky Ocean Rescue. So for them, I think at the time it was like an investment marketing opportunity. So they were moving in this direction. I think they worked a lot. They removed plastic from all of your offices. They really had something, to promote the reduction of plastic, and they invested in 15 or 20 companies that were really devoted to reduce plastic pollution. Then other investors are specialized in deep tech technologies that come from universities. So, and some receive funding also from European Union. We have one investor in Italy. This is also the reason why we set up the plant in Italy, because it's like the British business bank. So they invest in businesses that build infrastructure. So they expect a return, of course, but at the same time, they all have, I think, a second purpose, like to contribute to the environment or to create job opportunities.
Very good. Thank you. One more question, if may. No, that's not. It's not. Yeah, over here, sort of three and on about 5 rows back.
Hello, Declan Bradley again. I was just wondering there to build on that question, are you shielded from the Trump effect? Because in my job, I've had to help.
So
Quite-
shielded from?
The
The
Trump
Trump.
effect, the tariff effect,
Yeah,
perhaps
well,
specifically.
not so much a tariff, but
Okay.
the negative sentiment against green finance and helping sustainable companies. I've had to help quite a few environmental consultants recently who are losing their jobs, unfortunately. So I was just wondering, are you in a better place because of your investing?
So let me say this. I think this was also the case with the first Trump administration. I think the companies we are working with, they look at 5-10 years. So they knew that the bans were coming, and the bans will come into force. There is a delay for different products, but the general direction is in that direction. So of course there is an effect in terms of the market conditions are difficult. So going to look for more investment now is quite challenging. But overall, I think the perception we have is that they think there is a trend. We cannot continue like this. Statistics say that if we continue in 2050, there will be more plastic in the sea than fish, and so the attitude is that we have to do something. So there could be a slowdown, but overall, yeah, the direction is set.
It's a good question. One way or another, macro circumstances will affect all businesses, and the bigger the scale, the bigger the opportunity, the greater that effect might be. Whether or not it's reasonably short term, who knows? Who knows? I'm not going to comment on that too much. I'm going to come to 3 last questions, if I may. For you, Giovanna, how do you see your role developing in the future, changing as this funding comes through, and you are running, in part, a manufacturing-led business with major customers?
Yeah, and this is a good question because when we started, none of the founders were really looking to become managing a manufacturing company. So in a way, we have different options. One, of course, is an exit. One of these big companies we work with, they will acquire us. Another one is actually that from the beginning, we've been very innovative, meaning that what you see here is just a small part, because we are working to find solutions for plastics used, for example, in home dialysis equipment. So this is the future of the company. So ideally, so this is my dream for the company, is that we leave the manufacturing to experienced companies. So we do licensing. So we want to build another plant because we want to demonstrate the technology at full scale. But once we have that, our job is to license the technology, and our current customers can become our licensees, so that we don't have to manage a big manufacturing company, which is not our job. But because there are always new problems to solve, ideally we want to become a solution provider to materials problems or microplastic problems or whatever.
You very capably answered my second last question, which is about is the model licensable, which of course is less risk inherently, but it's potentially less value, but presumably that's
Yes.
built into your business model.
Yeah, no, definitely we would make more money if we were manufacturing ourselves. But as you were saying, there is more risk because every time you need to build a new facility, and actually it's not just that, it's also that if we consider that the microplastic problem is a global problem, it would be very difficult for us to build plants in Japan, because we have customers in Japan, we have potential customers in the United States. So it would be much faster if we want to solve this problem, if we license the technology and they can build plants and serve the customers globally.
And you've touched on this, but I'd like you to expand on it, which is the last question, which is pretty much for any company that we talk to today. What's the future that for Naturbeads? If you've got investors ultimately needing exits, You've got a business that's scaling, which is requiring a lot of capital, which itself will require some form of exit, or value at least. Do you see this as a public company, potentially? Do you see it as sold to DuPont or whomever it might be, or one of the cosmetics companies? Or do you see it as, this is your business, this is you and the team are going to be running this, and whatever happens, happens?
So we, as a startup, you need to be flexible. So we are open to all of the above. So
What's your preference?
So
an awful lot of money from an acquirer in 5 years' time. Who knew?
The thing is that because you're asking now that I'm coming, it's been probably the last 2 years very stressful. Ideally, I think I need a holiday. So whatever gives me the opportunity to go on holiday for like 6 months would help. But yeah, my preference, because the reason why I started the business is because I thought that there was a problem and I knew that there was a solution. So what was missing is how to take this solution from the lab out to the market. So I think this is the part that is most interesting for me. So innovation, solving problems. So I would like to continue like this. So if it is with Naturbeads, perhaps as I was saying, we can hire a professional CEO that has experience in manufacturing. I can become a chief scientific officer or innovation officer and continue in that direction. So that would be my preferred option.
In very broad terms, this parallels with some of the points that Christian was making towards the end of his talk about paddle, that the management of a business is quite different, or can be quite different, from the innovation, from the founding zeal. I've personally found this extraordinary. I love the nexus of academic thinking, commercial iteration, ecological value. World changing is probably a bit much, but it has world impact, potentially, certainly at least. To raise that money, to have that vision, to have the clarity of thinking, I think this has been extremely appealing. And Giovanna, two things. One, we would love you to come back at a subsequent EntreConf and tell us how Naturbeads has been going. And two, on behalf of us all, thank you very much for talking about the next big thing, Naturbeads. Thank you.
Thank you.